Hello and welcome. This particular video, we're going to talk about web hosting for WordPress. Now, before I talk about anything related to web hosting, what I want to do right now is to give you an analogy. So let's say, for example, that you're sick, your heart's not feeling good, and you have heart problems. If you go to a general practitioner and you tell them about your heart, a lot of times they may know a little bit if they're really experienced, but if it's a very specific thing about your heart, then most likely they are not going to know. Because a lot of times general family physicians, a lot of them know a lot of information because they see a lot of things, but they don't know in-depth detail about specialized areas. So that's why we have what we call specialists. For example, you have a cardiologist in this case. So what he would do is normally do a lot of tests. And over time, if he can't figure out what you have, then he'll send you to a cardiologist. And the cardiologist you'll go to, and he'll look at your heart and he'll know exactly what to look for most of the time. And he'll run some tests that are related to the heart, such as an echocardiogram, a treadmill test, and other tests that are related to the heart. Now, if you were to ask the cardiologist about something related to your kidneys that are related to a cardiologist, they may not necessarily know. So in that case, they will begin to send you to a urologist. Make sense? So the same goes for web hosting. And this is the best way to explain it. Now, I start with knownhost.com because this is one of the sites that we have used over the years, and it's great. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that if you host on a specific web host that is not specialized in WordPress, that it's not secure. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that most of the time, if you go to a host that specializes in WordPress, their team are going to be highly specialized on WordPress. They are going to know everything, or at least everything, about WordPress. So a lot of times if you run into an issue with a plugin or something's not working on your WordPress site, or you might get malware or you might get hacked, they are going to know how to fix it. Whereas if you go to another web hosting company that is not specialized in WordPress, a lot of times you'll ask them questions about WordPress and they may not necessarily know the answers to that. And that's based on our experience. Not to say that any generalization or anything like that, that's just based on our experience. So what we have begun to do over the years is simply to move our WordPress sites over to specialized web hosts that specialize in WordPress. So that's the reason why we recommend finding a web hosting company that specializes in WordPress. So I know I'm going around saying the same thing, but I really wanted to drill that into your minds. So with that said, there is a particular web hosting that we have tested called WPX Hosting. They're actually fairly cheap compared to that of other web hosting companies. Now, I want to make sure that you understand, if you have a WordPress site and then of course you have other scripts on that site that are not related to WordPress at all, then you might want to stick with a web hosting company like this, or a web hosting company that is more of a general practitioner / family physician type kind of analogy, if that makes sense. Now, if you simply have a WordPress site, you don't have any other scripts or anything like that that are outside of the WordPress folder, then this is the way to go. And the reason being is for speed, security, and support. So we've tested WPX hosting, very, very cheap pricing. So if we go here to pricing, you'll get an idea of what it costs. So as you can see here, it's $20 per month. That of course may change based on the annual plan, and the $41 for the annual plan. And it gives you about 5 websites and 15 websites for this. Now, I want to say up front that we are in no way connected to WP Hosting. We are simply users of this web host. Now, another great thing is a lot of times you will have to connect your WordPress site to some sort of CDN or content delivery network, such as Cloudflare. But with WPX Hosting, they actually have their own version of Cloudflare built in. So instead of having to pay for web hosting plus Cloudflare and all of that, the above, as you know, Cloudflare costs about this amount per site sometimes, or per several sites. So this is why this is a no-brainer. So as you can see, you got this. Now, the nice thing about WPX Hosting is that it also offers backups. It offers daily backups. Now, most, of course, web hosting companies, they offer backups, but a lot of times they'll only do once a month or once a week. What's nice about WPX Hosting is that it will actually allow you to back up every single day. So if you, let's say, for example, let's pick out a calendar month, let's say December, and you decide that you want to, let's say it's December 31st, and you want to move and revert back to December 12th because you remember that's around the time that you installed a plugin and maybe the site screwed up or anything like that. So you can simply click a button and it'll revert back to that state for that day. And that's nice because, to be honest, we haven't really seen that with a lot of other web hosting companies. In addition to that, their support is phenomenal. If you have any question related to WordPress, they will actually help you. And if they don't know, they'll research it as well. But most of the time, we've found that they are very experienced. They know a lot about WordPress. So think about this as the cardiologist or the specialist. So this is why we recommend WPX. There are other hosting that specialize in WordPress, such as WPEngine.com. This is a phenomenal web hosting company. They are well known, they are huge, and they run a lot of WordPress sites. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention was that WordPress sites, a lot of times, they will use a lot of server CPU or resources. So that's why a lot of these companies, they have servers and virtual private servers, or they just have an environment that was made for WordPress, whereas the other web hosting companies, it's just a general thing. So you might have to upgrade your plan to a higher plan in order to match that of a lot of these WP Engine or WPX hosting. Now, in addition to that, a lot of these sites will actually offer free malware cleanup. So if you were to get hacked, you have malware, somebody is using your site to redirect to another site, or they've maybe defaced your site, WPX will go in there and they will fix it for free. That, of course, included in your plan. We'll talk about other services that you can use to connect to your web hosting company. Let's say that you have a web host that you really love and you don't want to go this route. We will show you other ways to go about getting your malware cleaned up. But bear in mind that those cost additional costs, such as anywhere from $99 to about $200 per year. So I wanted to give you different options to go different routes, and this is it. So with that said, let's move on to the next video.